We have a lot to talk about. The Pac-12 has added 4 schools. You've got San Diego State, Boise State, Fresno State, Colorado State in the Pac-12. Let's get some rapid reaction, Wilner, on this special edition of the show. What's your reaction?
My reaction is it's a big surprise, and it's also not a surprise. We figured this was the most likely scenario. They were going to take the top football teams in the Mountain West and try to rebuild the Pac-12, and that's what they did. It just last night and this morning, it wasn't the timing you expect, but that's always true of realignment. It kind of always comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, when is it a good time to make this announcement or poach teams or make a pivot?
Well, do you think they did it on purpose because of the Apple Cup and Civil War?
I wondered about that because, 38,000 tickets sold at that neutral site game, the Apple Cup. I wondered if Washington State would rally around this and sell a few thousand tickets all of a sudden and get people excited about it. And certainly you're dropping this right in the lap of Oregon and Washington, who, there's some poetry there as these two teams move forward. But I also think that the Pac-12 learned something from the last time around, right? They waited too long. They trusted too much. They hemmed and hawed. It just kept going and going. And, I just kind of wonder, did they learn that the right time to make a move is when you're able to make a move? And, the Teresa Gold, the Pac-12 commissioner, saying that, just kind of all came together in the last 48 hours, really ramped up. I believe they were talking like 6 or 8 weeks ago. And then it's just going to come to this moment.
Yeah. Well, it's a stark contrast to the way realignment was handled by the Pac-12 previously, isn't it? I mean, clearly, she was a deputy commissioner and saw the things that went wrong. And it seems like she was determined not to repeat the mistakes because she had the urgency that was lacking previously.
They add 4 schools. Let's talk about those 4 schools. What do they bring, Wilner? You got Boise State, San Diego State, Colorado State, and Fresno State.
I think they bring at this level, they bring good markets, media markets. San Diego gives you great recruiting access. Boise is a very good football brand nationally. They are, that was the schools to get. Although you wonder about UNLV, I'm sure you probably wondered about that one too. Yeah. But I think that they are going to, with that combination, they're certainly going to raise their media value as high as it can get, given what the options are.
Yeah, Bob Thompson, our friend and frequent guest, former Fox Sports Network's president, told me, he said, look, the only thing better than being at the front of the line in a media rights negotiation is being the only one in line. And in this way, with the Mountain West sort of decimated, they are the only ones in line. You bring up UNLV. I looked into UNLV last night because it was the first thing that I thought as this stuff was kind of starting to cascade. And, they are tied to Nevada with their Board of Regents in the state of Nevada. There may have been a little bit of pumping of the brakes there. They may also just be a fallback option for team number 7 or team number 8 as they build towards that July 2026 deadline to get to 8 teams. Yep. First you've got to obviously look at Stanford and Cal to see if something implodes in the ACC and Stanford and Cal will dare get in the same room as Boise State and Fresno State academically. You wait to see what happens there, I think. And then you start to hold this beauty contest between a bunch of the schools. And, you've outlined some of those schools as well, but UNLV probably, it feels to me like they would be attractive, but maybe a fallback option as the 6 schools kind of move together now to see who's number 7 and who's number 8.
Yeah, they've got their foundation, so they do have some time. I think they may try to see if they can get into the central time zone here. Stanford and Cal could be 7 and 8, but they could also be 9 and 10, right? If it's a longer term situation with the ACC. So maybe they're going to take a look at Tulane, UTSA, Memphis, some combination of central time zone schools just to see if there's anything there. If there's not, then they can always go to UNLV and I don't know, I would think Air Force probably. And then Stanford and Cal, there's always going to be a landing spot because they would only be at 9 schools.
Do you think Stanford and Cal can wrap their heads around the academic part separating from the athletic part? Because that's what it would take. We all know that maybe someday we're going to have these super conferences, maybe football splits away. But for Stanford and Cal to get their heads around the idea of being in the Pac-12 with these other schools, they're going to have to let go of part of that, research institution, academic, snobbery that has been there.
I mean, they're in a conference with Louisville, Clemson. I mean, that's not like the Ivy League. Some very good schools in the ACC, but some of them aren't, right? Yeah. Some of them are not any different than, San Diego State or UNLV or whoever. So I think to me, the thing for Cal and Stanford is that they have a lot of alums, a lot of big dollar alums in the Washington, New York corridor. And for those folks, having the two schools compete athletically on the East Coast, there's a lot of value. The other piece is ACC is very good at the Olympic sports, which means so much to Stanford and Cal. I don't think this is going to cause Stanford and Cal to reverse course. I think they're only coming back if there's absolutely no viable ACC for them to stay in.
I keep that seat warm though, and wait and see as long as I can before I would move on, because those would be a tentpole move to bring back the Bay Area into the fold. This conference too, you start talking about college football playoff. There's a lot of confusion out there currently. Under the guidelines, it's the top 5 ranked conference champions who would get automatic berths to the playoff. Now that you have rated the top of the Mountain West Conference, the Pac-12 is well positioned. So your strategy of going into the American makes a lot of sense too, because if you go in and you take Memphis or you take Tulane or you take UTSA out of the American, all of a sudden, you're pretty much guaranteeing that you're going to be among those top 5 automatic berths as it pertains to the playoff.
You are, although the playoff is a fluid animal, and we don't know exactly what the SEC and Big Ten are going to try to do, later when the new contract cycle starts with ESPN in 2026, and then there's a look-in clause, a look-in window. I think it's after 27. So, I think that the winner of the rebuilt Pac-12 will probably be okay for a couple of years, but things could change quickly given how much influence the SEC and Big Ten have over that whole situation.
Yeah, and I think if I'm the Pac-12, I'm going to use that look in to try to increase my leverage and see what are your members now, what can you negotiate in that form. Saturday we've got Apple Cup, we've got Civil War, got this stuff going on in the background. You and I have talked about how important those games are.
Do you think that changes at all now?
I think there's just an uptick of enthusiasm from the 4 schools that are joining. I'm hearing from a lot of those fans and a lot of media members in those markets who are reaching out to go, wait, what do I need to know? But I'm also, I think Washington State and Oregon State fans, they've been through hell. I mean, they're like John Wick here. All right. They've seen some stuff. They've been victimized and they're fighting back. And it's, I'm trying to evaluate what they're doing realistically because, like you said, it was about the best they could hope for. It was probably the most likely scenario. It isn't relegation, but they're taking the top half of the Mountain West and they're going to try to make a go of it. And they've got 2 seats empty now, and they're going to try to figure out how to fill those. I think it's really intriguing. It's really exciting. I need to see the next move before I declare this a massive win for the Pac-12. Need to see the media rights money. But Wilner, let me ask you this: they're $17 million per school exit fee, $43 million in poaching penalties. It looks to me like those 4 schools are running towards something. What did the Pac-12 tell those 4 schools? Are they selling them? This is what our media rights package is going to be worth. What are they selling?
I don't know that they have enough info. They've probably done some modeling on the media rights, but boy, that is hard to tell at this early stage. I think that they are running toward the fact that everything is compared to the Mountain West. It's a bigger platform. There's going to be more revenue opportunities. The brand is stronger. I think that to a certain extent, Boise and San Diego State, we talked about this the other day too. Boise and San Diego State, well, they were done with the Mountain West. They were done getting the same amount of TV money as Utah State and Nevada and San Jose State, right? So now they're stepping up, and it's going to be a better TV deal. How much better, I don't know. But I also wonder, the realignment, billable hours undefeated. And I have a sense that, the attorneys will find a way, hammer some of those exit fees down. That happens all the time with departing schools and realignment. So I tallied it up. I think I got to about 110 million for the 4. I bet it's not 110 million when the lawyers are done.
Look, I also think we all know it's going somewhere else, that this is potentially a bridge to super conferences. And so one of the things I like about this is the Pac-12, that largely has been viewed as sitting still and being left behind, is being proactive here. And they're taking a move that grabs the best available schools in their region and says, are you with us? We're moving somewhere. And so I like it from that standpoint as well. Make sure.
The other thing I was wondering though, are there any other outside the box options, right? And I think about basketball, right? They have the deal with the Mountain West or with West Coast Conference, right? So you have to assume now that Pac-12 basketball is back with a few decent basketball schools, San Diego State for sure. Could they try to be real creative and invite basketball only?
I know where you're going. You're going to Gonzaga. Could they? Well, is Gonzaga an option?
Is Gonzaga an option? I think that's something. But other schools like that, could they do something a little bit different with basketball to try to increase their value? Gonzaga's sitting there like UConn, desperate for an invite into the Big 12 that I'm not sure is coming anytime soon. But I just think that that's something for us to keep in mind too, is they're going to be creative. I mean, as creative as possible. They don't have, in some ways they have a lot of freedom that they wouldn't have had in the old Pac-12, which was, so traditional. Now it's like all bets are off, and they can do some stuff that we haven't really thought about.
I think you got to give some credit too to Oregon State and Washington State and the presidents there.
Yeah.
To your point, they were very nimble. The fact that this came together so quickly, they look smart. They've been through some stuff. What did they do? They fought for the assets of the conference. They, won those lawsuits in the face of everybody telling them just to accept relegation. They refused to do that. They promoted Teresa Gould. They went out and found a consulting firm that is, a power broker. And they are sitting today in a position where they look like they want to be, opportunistic. And so I got to give some credit to Oregon State and Washington State as well.
They've made a lot of very, very shrewd moves in the last 13 months. There's no doubt about that. If the Pac-12 had made as many smart moves as the Beavers and Cougars, Pac-12 would still exist as we knew it.
Yeah, I think they learned something.
Yes, they did.
Right. Make sure that you subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and tell us in the comment section what you think of this. What do you make of this? What should the Pac-12 do next? And if you're listening via podcast, audio podcast, make sure you subscribe as well. We'll be back with another episode next week.
Thanks very much.